In the dimly lit briefing room of a bustling Marine Corps base, where the air hummed with the tension of impending missions and the faint scent of gun oil lingered, Colonel Harlan Iron Fist Reynolds strode in with his trademark scowl, his polished boots echoing like thunderclaps on the concrete floor. He was a legend in the Corps, a grizzled veteran of countless battles from the deserts of Iraq to the jungles of Vietnam's echoes, known for his unyielding discipline and his habit of grilling new pilots on their call signs to weed out the weak from the warriors, and today his piercing gaze landed on Captain Elena Phantom 7 Vargas, the only woman in the squadron, her flight suit crisp and her posture impeccable as she stood at attention amidst her male counterparts who exchanged knowing smirks, anticipating the colonel's infamous interrogation. "You there, pilot," he barked, pointing a finger like a loaded weapon at Elena, his voice gravelly from years of shouting orders over roaring engines. "What's your call sign, and don't give me some flowery nonsense. Marines earn their names in blood and sweat." The room fell silent, the other pilots holding their breath, for Elena was no ordinary flyer. She had risen through the ranks with a ferocity that belied her slight frame, her dark eyes hiding stories of missions where she vanished into the night skies like a ghost, striking targets with precision that left enemies whispering of phantoms in the dark. And her call sign wasn't just a label, it was a badge forged in the fires of a classified op gone sideways years ago, one that few knew the full truth about. Elena met his stare unflinchingly, her voice steady as a locked-on missile. "Phantom 7, sir." The colonel's face drained of color, his scowl fracturing into wide-eyed shock, for Phantom 7 wasn't just any call sign, it was the code name of a legendary covert operative from his own past, a shadowy figure who had saved his platoon during a botched extraction in the Hindu Kush Mountains back in '02, pulling them from the jaws of death with aerial strikes so precise they seemed supernatural, and the voice on the radio that night had been unmistakably female, a detail he'd buried deep in classified reports to protect her identity from the brass who frowned on women in combat roles at the time. He went silent, the room thick with unspoken questions as memories flooded back, the explosions lighting up the night, the chopper's rotors whipping dust into a frenzy, and that calm, reassuring voice cutting through the chaos. "Phantom 7 inbound, hold tight, boys." A voice that now echoed from the woman standing before him, the very savior he'd idolized as an untouchable myth, never imagining she was real, let alone one of his own subordinates. As the seconds stretched, the colonel's silence spoke volumes, his mind racing through the implications. How had she kept this secret? Why hadn't she claimed the glory? And what did it mean for his own ego, built on tales of masculine heroism, to owe his life to a woman who'd outflown and outfought them all? Finally, he cleared his throat, his voice uncharacteristically soft. "At ease, Captain." "Phantom 7, carry on." The squadron erupted in murmurs as he turned away, but Elena simply nodded, her secret intact, knowing that true warriors didn't need applause, they needed results, and hers had just silenced a colonel. But let's dive deeper into this incredible story, folks. Welcome to today's episode on Untold Heroes of the Skies, where we unpack the real-life inspirations behind tales like Elena's, exploring the history of women in aviation, the evolution of call signs in the military, and the psychological impact of revelations like this on chain of command. First off, call signs aren't just nicknames, they're earned through feats or follies, like Maverick from Top Gun fame, or real ones like Chaos 4. A pilot who caused a stir on the ground, and in Elena's case, Phantom 7 draws from actual stealth missions where pilots operate under radar, invisible and deadly. Now, imagine the colonel's shock amplified by the era's biases. Back in the early 2000s, women were just breaking barriers in combat aviation, with pioneers like Colonel Martha McSally fighting for equal roles, and stories like this highlight the quiet revolutions happening in hangars worldwide. Let's break it down chronologically. Elena's journey likely started in basic training, where she outperformed expectations, then flight school where she aced simulations that felled seasoned vets, leading to her first deployment where the Phantom legend was born during Operation Enduring Freedom, perhaps involving FA-18 Hornets vanishing into Afghan valleys to deliver payloads without detection. The Colonel's reaction, pure cognitive dissonance. Psychologists call it the hero myth shatter, where one's self-image crumbles upon realizing their idol is someone they underestimated, and in military culture, that's a big deal, often leading to mentorships or rivalries that shape careers. But Elena's poise, that's the mark of a true leader, reminding us of figures like Tammy Duckworth, the senator and former Black Hawk pilot who lost limbs in Iraq yet rose higher. As we extend this narrative, picture the aftermath, the Colonel pulling Elena aside later, sharing war stories over stale coffee in the mess hall, forging an unlikely alliance that propels her to command her own squadron, all while inspiring younger recruits who hear the tale whispered in barracks. To make this 30-minute deep dive engaging, we'll include expert interviews, say, a retired Marine aviator discussing call sign traditions, clips from declassified footage of similar missions, and even a breakdown of the tech behind Phantom operations, like stealth coatings and electronic warfare that make pilots ghosts in the machine. Did you know that call signs can be punitive too, like Fifi for a pilot who complained about French food? Humorous, but Elena's is pure respect. Wrapping up, this story isn't just about shock, it's about breaking ceilings, earning respect, and the silent bonds of service that transcend gender. If you're inspired, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold military epics, and comment your own call sign ideas below. What would yours be? Thanks for watching, Semper Fi, and see you in the next one. In the aftermath of that electrifying briefing room encounter, where Colonel Harlan Iron Fist Reynolds had his world rocked by Captain Elena Phantom 7 Vargas's revelation, the Marine Corps base buzzed with whispers and speculation, pilots huddled in the hangar swapping theories about the Colonel's uncharacteristic silence, some betting it was a ghost from his past while others joked he'd finally met his match in a flyer who didn't need bravado to back her up, but Elena, ever the stoic professional, threw herself back into the grind, prepping for a high-stakes training exercise over the Pacific, her F-35 Lightning II gleaming under the hangar lights like a predator ready to pounce, its stealth tech a modern echo of the Phantom Ops that defined her legacy. As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the tarmac, the Colonel sought her out in the quiet of the officers' lounge, his usual bark replaced by a hesitant gravel. "Vargas, a word," he muttered, gesturing to a corner table cluttered with dog-eared mission logs and half-empty coffee mugs, and what unfolded was a raw, unfiltered exchange that peeled back layers of military machismo. Harlan recounting that fateful night in the Hindu Kush, the Taliban ambush that pinned his platoon in a kill zone, mortars raining down like hellfire, and how Phantom 7's voice crackled over the comms, directing strikes that turned the tide, her A-10 Warthog back then, before the sleek jet swooping in low and lethal, engines roaring defiance against the mountain echoes. Elena listened, her expression unchanging, but inside, memories surged, the adrenaline-fueled cockpit, instruments glowing red as she pushed the bird to its limits, dodging SAMs and weaving through valleys so narrow the wingtips kissed rock, all to extract a team she'd never met, driven by the unspoken creed that no Marine gets left behind, and she revealed snippets of her side, the classified briefings, the gender barriers that forced her to fly under radar in more ways than one, and how 7 came from being the seventh child in a family of overachievers, a nod to her roots in a dusty Texas border town where she first dreamed of skies beyond the horizon. The Colonel, humbled, admitted his biases, confessing how he'd dismissed women pilots as affirmative action flyers until that night rewrote his script, and in a rare vulnerability, he offered mentorship, pulling strings for her to lead the upcoming joint ops with the Navy SEALs, a mission simulating urban warfare in a mock city built on the base's outskirts, complete with pyrotechnics and role-playing insurgents to test metal under fire. Fast forward to the exercise dawn, rotors chopping the air as Black Hawks lifted off, Elena at the helm of her squadron, call signs crackling Phantom 7, Fox 3. As simulated missiles streaked toward targets, her precision drawing odd nods from ground troops, including a young lieutenant who idolized her story, whispering to his buddy, "That's the one who shut up Iron Fist." But drama escalated when a glitch in the sim turned real. A malfunctioning drone veered off course, threatening to collide with live assets, forcing Elena to improvise a barrel roll that saved the day, her voice calm on the radio mirroring that long ago rescue. And back on ground, the colonel watched from the command tent, a grudging smile cracking his facade as he realized she wasn't just a savior but a force multiplier, inspiring a shift in squadron dynamics where merit trumped gender. Welcome back to Untold Heroes of the Skies, folks. This is part